Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Filippo Reina, and on behalf of MIPIM, I'm pleased to welcome you to this keynote address today. We're very happy to have the opportunity here at MIPIM to celebrate Turkey as the 2013 Country of Honor. Turkish companies and local authorities have been loyal attendees at MIPIM for years, and their presence has kept growing. This year is the first time, though, that we welcome over 650 attendees from Turkey, representative of over 200 companies. These figures show how dynamic the Turkish property sector is and bear witness to its confirmed internationalization. I invite you to take some time and visit the Turkish pavilion and the other Turkish stands in the exhibition floor, where you will find incredibly innovative and an incredible number of projects that are showcased. And I don't think there is no doubt about the growing importance of the real estate market and the need to learn more about Turkey's fast developments. And this is why it is with great honor that we welcome the Deputy Prime Minister of Turkey, Ali Babacan, who will tell us more about Turkey's economic outlook and key investment opportunities. Mr. Babacan, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm delighted to be here in Cannes, and it's a pleasure and honor to address such a distinguished gathering. This is a gathering of real estate investors, developers, consultants, retailers, local authorities, and at the outset of my speech, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to those who have contributed to the selection process for Turkey as the country of honor during this year's MIPIM. Taking this chance, I would like to also invite you to look around to the Turkish pavilion to get an idea about what kind of projects are there, what kind of very dynamic Turkish businesses, enterprises you will meet. And in parallel to MIPIM's motto of building tomorrow's world, I will also try to shed some light on what we have been doing and what we will be doing for tomorrow's Turkey. Last 10 years of Turkey was a very important transformation process for the country. This transformation was with our political reforms, with our economic reforms, and we have done a lot to strengthen our democracy, to have better and better practices in terms of freedoms, rule of law, human rights, and we did good enough to start our negotiations process with the EU for possible membership. So we, in a way, passed the critical threshold when we talk about political reforms in Turkey. We still have a long to-do list, but we are progressing with strong political will. This was also an important transformation process for Turkey in the area of economy. We have made many reforms in our banking system, in our public financial management, in healthcare, in social security, and the very crucial areas which are now being worked on by many of European governments nowadays were the areas which we have already done very serious reforms timely. Also, our macroeconomic indicators improved very fast. Our debt to GDP ratio is now only at 36%. And we have a very strong public fiscal balances. Our growth rates have been also quite spectacular. per capita GDP in Turkey more than tripled over the last 10 years. When we look at the income distribution in the country, that is also improving. In many countries, during the stages of development, you would see the gap between the rich and the poor getting bigger. But in the case of Turkey, our Gini coefficient has been dropping gradually, step by step. And OECD actually announced Turkey as the country, a member country of the OECD, which has the fastest improvement in its income distribution. This is very important because when the income distribution gets better and better, it means there is a rising middle class in the country, a huge domestic market. We have already a young population, also a growing population. Our population is increasing more than 1 million every year. But also this population is making better and better income. And that's why many, many multinational retail chains have been investing in Turkey over the last 10 years. And also it is no surprise that the number of shopping malls that we had in Turkey has increased very fast. And this area has been an important business right now. Also, construction business overall is growing in Turkey. We have now a much higher quality set of buildings and better conformation with the EU criteria, with the EU norms and standards, whether we talk about the environmental subjects, or if we look at the strength against earthquakes and so forth. So the quality has been also getting much, much better. So in a way, this important transformation process for Turkey, both on the political side and on the economic side, has strengthened the fundamentals of our economy. When we look at especially the crisis era, starting from 2008-2009 until now, our economy was not affected that much. We continued to have high growth rates throughout this period. Not only that, but also we continued to generate employment in Turkey. During the last 3 years, the total employment in Turkey increased by 4.6 million. And according to the ILO figures, International Labour Organization figures, Turkey is the country which was able to bring down its unemployment rate at the fastest rate across all the ILO members over the last 3 years. When we look at the reasons of this outcome, of course, our prudent fiscal policies helped, our prudent monetary policies helped, structural reforms helped. But then there is just one important factor which has helped our economy to be differentiated from many, many countries in our region. And that factor is the factor of confidence. In Turkey, all the confidence indicators are very high. Whether you measure it by consumer confidence index or producers confidence index, or whether you look at our risk premium for borrowing, or whether you look at our CDS spreads, the confidence is very, very strong. And in a country where there is strong confidence, consumers tend to spend, corporations tend to invest, and the financial sector, banks, tend to lend. So investments, consumption, and the financing behind it is important for growth. Our growth is coming from private sector activity, not from government spending. And that's our intention. That's our deliberate policy. Especially in 2008-2009, fiscal stimulus was an important theme for many countries. But we thought that trust to the state, the sovereign trust is very, very important. Because when the treasury of that country is being questioned, when the debt sustainability of a country is being questioned, then the banks in that country are no longer able to function in a healthy way. And when the banking sector is in trouble, it is very difficult to continue to finance either corporations or consumers. So our choice, our deliberate, strong political will was for private sector to do the job of growth. And the high growth rates we achieved in 2010, for example, 9.2%, or in 2011, 8.5%, these were all coming from private sector activity, which is a result of confidence. Nowadays, in many countries, we are observing fiscal stimulus programs or monetary stimulus programs. Central banks are printing incredible amount of money to stimulate the economy. But if confidence is not there, this is not generating growth. So I think this was, in a way, the recipe which has made Turkey a high growth economy, even during difficult times for the global economy. And how to build confidence? First of all, predictability is very important. So having clear economic programs, giving targets for 3 years, for 5 years, and actually working towards those targets, making promises and fulfilling promises, announcing policies and implementing those policies. So I think predictability has been very, very important for us. Also continuity. It was 2001 when we first announced our economic program as a new political party, the current ruling party, Justice and Development Party. And when you look at what we announced in 2001 versus what we have been doing since then, there is consistency, coherency, and continuity. So this is, I think, this was important for Turkey to differentiate itself. We have been doing a lot to improve the investment environment in Turkey, to lift red tape, continuously fight with barriers for business or for investments and so forth, which is not an easy job. So we tried to streamline our legislation. We tried to make our laws shorter, easier to understand, easier to implement. Even during the crisis, last 3-4 years, we introduced more rigorous reforms. We legislated a brand new commercial code in Turkey, a brand new code of obligations, a brand new capital markets law. And these have prepared a strong, transparent, legal base to do business in Turkey. And these are very much EU compliant. But when I say EU compliant, I have to be careful nowadays because we don't want to regulate too much. We don't want to hurt the competitiveness of our companies. We have to be very careful in our labor market policies so that there is adequate amount of flexibility together with social security aspects and how to find the right balance. And we know that EU acquis communautaire has some elements which is hurting the confidence of many European countries. So we are going to take it easy and wait until the membership before we implement everything. So we are doing, in a way, cherry picking when it comes to EU criteria on the economic side. If it helps our economy, we do it. But if we believe it is going to hurt our competitiveness, we just postpone it. So we have the luxury to wait until the membership, which is going to take some time anyway. But then we know that we have to move on in the area of rule of law. Because we know that we are never going to be a developed country. We are never going to be a first-class economy, first-class democracy, if rule of law doesn't function in Turkey in a good way. That's why we have just sent our 4th judicial reform package to the parliament. We have already completed the 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd packages. Now the 4th is in line. We want to make sure that our justice system works faster with good, consistent, predictable outcomes. We have a very long-term view when it comes to business environment. We don't implement policies just to save the day. We don't implement policies just to do it this year and then think about the next year later on. We always have a long-term view when we implement policies. We have already set our targets for year 2023, the year of the 100th anniversary of the foundation of the Republic of Turkey. We believe that by that year, Turkey is going to have a total GDP of $2 trillion and per capita income of $25,000. This is market rates, market exchange rate. With PPP adjusted, it is going to be much more. And it's not just actually our government's targets, but OECD, or when you look at World Bank, IMF, long-term projections. Turkey is listed among the high growth potential countries. OECD just actually released a report for potential growth rate of OECD members. And for the next 10 years and also for the next 20 years, Turkey is listed at the top of the list, which is the country having the highest growth potential. So also independent observers or international organizations think that our economy has not just done well, but will continue to do well. Of course, we have to continue to do the right things. We have to continue to implement good policies. This is not granted. It's going to happen only if we are careful with our structural reforms, only if we are careful with our public finances, with our financial sector overall. And actually, our financial sector passed through a very important test in 2008-2009. Not even one single Turkish bank had any kind of problems, because they were already very well capitalized, very high liquidities already were asked, so they were in a way quite prepared for the crisis. So this big test which the Turkish financial sector went through encouraged us to declare Istanbul as one of the future financial centers internationally. Again, in 10 years' time, we believe that Istanbul is going to be one of the top 10 financial centers globally. And I would say between, for example, Frankfurt and Singapore, we believe that Istanbul could be the financial center which is going to be serving a big region. And we have already taken measures and completed our legislative framework to prepare the grounds for that to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, so what to expect from Turkey over the next 10 years, I would say. And I know that 10 years nowadays is too long of a time for any country to make plans or declare targets. But actually, when we did declare our targets back 3-4 years ago for 2023, they were found to be ambitious, but also quite realistic. So I didn't hear any voices saying, well, you know, is it possible, is it not, and so forth. So just looking at what we have done over the last 10 years and the results that we have got, despite the global crisis, gives a good idea of what Turkey could achieve over the next 10 years. So what we have done during the last 10 years, in a way, gives us adequate tools and reason to project, to extrapolate what will happen for the next 10 years. And as I said, overall real estate sector in any developing country, including Turkey, will offer many, many opportunities. And the growth rate of our real estate sector, our construction business, is going to be much faster than the overall growth rate of the economy. So big opportunities for new development projects, big opportunities for services, helping those projects to happen, and big opportunities for financing those projects with good returns. And recently, we have actually legislated a law so that engineering services exports from Turkey are now corporate tax-free. So if you do engineering in Turkey, in Istanbul, and you export this, then it is corporate tax free. That's also now attracting companies from Asia, from Europe to have their operations based in Istanbul. Talking about Istanbul, it is also becoming an important transportation hub. Now, Turkish Airlines fly to 92 countries, and that ranks them #1 globally in terms of number of countries that they fly. And they are not #1 by number of passengers or by number of aircraft, but by number of destinations. I'm sorry, by number of countries that they fly to. They are doing quite well. We have been putting a lot of effort on African markets. We used to have only 12 embassies in Africa. Now we have 34. In a few months, we are going to have 36. We are adding 2 more embassies over there. And our political linkages with Asia and Latin America is growing very fast. And what we are doing is embassies, international cooperation agencies, trade representation offices, and flights. And this prepares a good base for businesses to move into a very wide area. 10 years ago, our exports to the EU was 60% of our exports. And last year, although our exports increased from 36 billion to 153 billion over the 10 years, our exports to the EU is now 37%, but our exports to Africa and Middle East is another 37%. So we were able to diversify our export markets, and we were able to diversify also the sources of financing for Turkey. So this has worked out quite well for us. So this is also one of the reasons why the impact of the recent crisis on Turkish economy was very, very limited. So probably I should stop here and maybe have 2 or 3 questions, if time allows, of course, and then I understand that there is another program in this auditorium. I will ask for your permission to leave. So if any questions, please. Do you have a microphone? Okay. I think that's a microphone for a TV camera, not for the auditorium. If you are vocal enough, I think we can hear. Please.
I've been in Turkey for a year and a half, and we're setting up the investment real estate investment fund for medium-sized projects. And we've been hearing a lot lately about inviting people to come and invest in Turkey, foreign companies. Yet there is an obstacle. We're having a hard time from a cultural, financial services point of view. And is there some kind of organization or something that is linked to the office to help people like us to
We do. We have an investment promotion and support agency reporting directly to our Prime Minister, which is exclusively helping companies which are planning to invest, but also after they decide to invest, they support what they are doing. So if they are faced with difficulties in some of our cities or some of the local authorities or here and there, they are there to support them. We do have such an agency. It's called ISPAD. This is ISPAD, Investment Support and Promotion Agency of Turkey. Okay. Please.
Your Excellency, Ahmet Kayhan Raiden from Turkish citizen living in Dubai. Since the reciprocity law, as you know, opened up the Turkish market for the Middle Eastern investors specifically to buy into Turkey, there are 2 areas I would like to hear your opinion from a central point of view. First one is that with the reciprocity law, it opens the market, but the retail investors are facing big problems on the residential permit.
Yeah, we are working on it.
The second one is that
in a few weeks, I think we are going to bring solutions. Yes.
Perfect. Yes. The second one is the lack of the financial vehicles that supports the such funds or like the appetite of like sovereign wealth funds to invest into real estate in Turkey which is the biggest gap, the biggest bridge gap. So I would like to hear your views on that. Thanks a lot.
I couldn't understand the second question.
Most of the funds are looking for vehicles like REITs, for instance, to invest in the Turkish market. But most of our developers or real estate owners, or like the developers, or like landlords, are looking for direct investments. It's a big, long process. We have like REITs kind of structures where you have like bonds, cooks, or you name it. There's a big lag there. I would like to hear your opinion on that.
Actually, there are already some real estate investment partnerships or trusts, as you call it, but they are mostly functioning like construction companies themselves. So the original idea was not that. Actually, we were planning them to be acting like funds so that people invest and then they invest in. So that's an area which does need some special attention. And we have actually started a dialogue with the construction companies and also the managers of REITs in Turkey about how we can develop this and how we can make it easier for those to invest in Turkey to our real estate market, but not in individual projects, but in an easier way. I understand what you say, but there's something that we are working on. But still, the FDI inflow to Turkey, when we look at the real estate, it is already a sizable figure, and it's growing exponentially. Maybe one last question, and then I will have to leave if you have any, of course. Yes, please.
The mortgage in Turkey is unfortunately about 6%. And to enlarge this percentage, we need to use the securities. Unfortunately, the mortgage in Turkey is only 6% of the GDP.
Yes.
And to enlarge this quantity, we have to use the mortgages as securities, you know. And there's no structure in Turkey about those. So banks are not reluctant enough to increase the mortgage in Turkish system, banking system. What is your opinion about that?
Well, the mortgage market is a very important market, and we are acting very carefully. We legislated our mortgage law in 2006, and back then it was almost 0% of GDP. So it increased from almost 0 to 6% of GDP over the last maybe 6 years or so. But then we have some rules for mortgages, and we believe that it is very important for financial stability. For example, for mortgages in Turkey, it's only in lira, it's only in foreign currency, because we don't want our citizens to borrow in other currencies and then be exposed to exchange rate risk. Also, mortgages in Turkey is only in fixed rate. We don't allow adjustable rates, because we want, again, our citizens to pay predictable monthly amounts and not be exposed to interest rate risks as well. Another important aspect of our mortgage system is we ask for 25% down payment, and that's by law. People think this is too much, but we believe that it is very important for a long-term, sustainable, healthy mortgage market. Because first, it measures the ability to pay back, because if a person has the ability to pay 25% in cash, then it's very likely that the rest of the payments are going to continue in a healthy way. And also it protects the bank's balance sheets, because especially when the real estate values fluctuate over time, and in mortgages, which usually is 10, 20 years or more, real estate prices does fluctuate. It doesn't always go up and up. So it provides a protection, again, for the banks, so that if the real estate value goes down, then the mortgages, the collateral is still safe. It is okay. We are not in any kind of rush, because we don't want to have a huge mortgage explosion in Turkey, a bubble, and then faced with difficulties later on. So we believe that what we are doing step by step is quite healthy and sustainable. It's not easy to talk like this nowadays, during a time when many countries are trying to stimulate consumption and so forth, but we already have such a high confidence level in the country that people are so eager to spend, so eager to invest and buy houses and so forth. We just want to make sure that this happens in a gradual way. And we always say that, okay, if the welfare in the country is going to increase, we have to first earn it. We don't want our citizens just to borrow and spend and live a welfare level which is beyond their actual reach. So this long-term approach, it has been very important for us for stability purposes. That's why, for the last 10 years of Turkey, despite the crisis of 2008, 2009, has been quite a success. And we think that we have to be careful as we move along.
It's very conservative, unfortunately. And still, this is the front view that you are looking, but on the back view, what is the collaterals, the mortgages that are collected to be securitized in the markets?
That's important.
Because this is going to provide an element to the banks for borrowing easily, actually. But you are pushing on that as well as a brake and not allowing the banks or those collaterals to be securitized in the markets, unfortunately.
No, that's something which we are open about. The mortgage-backed securities is an area which we think has to be developed in Turkey. But we do need to have a critical mass before we can actually push it forward. And I think we are approaching to that critical mass so that the mortgage-backed security area, the standardization of the mortgage market instruments and having more standardized products for the investors. These are all things which we are getting ready for, and the critical mass is approaching. So I wouldn't be surprised to have those markets in a couple of years in Turkey functioning well, but on solid basis.
As a developer, you expect faster decisions, actually.
You are very well understood.
to make the cake bigger.
That's right, but also we should look at the bad examples around the world, and if too much ambition, if it is not based on realities, causes road accidents. Right. And investors themselves, I don't think they are very fond of road accidents. So. Okay, thank you very much.